I proudly would like to start this new and largely the most important documentary with a personal message to the world, to all of you, my family, to every person that search for answer and truth, and for those who spread hope and knowledge. I personally think that we can find more answer about this reality in focusing our understanding of life toward the natural and spiritual sequence of nature than in any fancy scientific research presented to us by the so-called educational institution. A flower and its cycle of blooming in its pure shamanic beauty, after a freezing winter, preparing for the next decay, or in a tree, covering itself with the magnificent veil of leaf that will let go when the first autumn wind will bring it back to the sleeping status that will appear to our eyes during the dark and cold winter stage, or simply in a mother giving birth to whom will most probably be the next universe of knowledge. I'm sorry to have let you lose few seconds of your life listening to my thoughts and my message, but it is dedicated to all of the amazing comments, email, and links that pure-hearted people, as you are, have sent me during this 2 years long project. Please, if your time is very restricted, I think that you will find more spectacular info in what the subscribers have posted under my videos than in my works itself. I love and respect each of your messages. Thank you for sharing them. So let's start creating some debates. Once upon a time, there was a land of ice and glacier, without ancient history, sitting at the last step of this pyramidal structure of ancient events presented to us by the most expert historians of all time. Finland. Really? Actually, I will not start with the country of Finland, at least for what is considered Finland in our days, but with what lies right in the other side of the border. Most of the images that I will present you are found in videos of two of my favorite channels. The New Earth channel, megaliths.org. By the way, thank you, madam, for what you are doing for all of humanity. And Sir Philippe Drushinin, I hope I pronounced it well, whom to me is a magnificent researcher. The first site is most probably very well known to every expert in megalithic structures. Lies in the proximity of the city of Vyborg, our days Russia. Its name is Morrepos Park. In the first few images, we can appreciate an enormous structure, a gigantic wall composed of megalithic blocks that stretch for dozens of kilometers. I know, everybody would think, but that's the Ice Age that creates such monstrous geological formation. No human could cut, transport, and lift something of that size. What a joke is this one? Really? As we can observe between the blocks, it is very visible some sort of bending materials. Look like it is holding the stones, or whatever they are, together, as some kind of a concrete or so. And we can observe the same phenomenon on this other image from the Urals mountain area, which, by the way, is where the ancient origin of the Finnish language have its cradle. And I have already presented it in my video entirely dedicated to this particular topic of the Finnish language origins. In the next image, we can observe a Russian gentleman taking measurement of one of the blocks, pointing out the colossal size of those, let's call them bricks, reaching 13 or more meters. If we continue following this astonishing structure, we can find the megalithic blocks scattered around a bit everywhere. And a logical question comes to my mind. What happened to this place? Which kind of natural force could have broken it apart? On this particular spot, the gentleman is pointing out some strange phenomenon. The compass is offset, showing the magnetic north many degrees further from its normal current attraction. But there's another fact that caught my attention. The similarity with this other wall-looking structure, located in the area of Askola, South Finland. But I will not talk yet about this particular and magnificent area of the country, because it will become one of the topic of the next part of this video. So let's go back to Morrepos Park. Very strange cut stones are visible around the site. We will see them in large quantity in another area that I will present you in the second part of this video. Plenty of very strange smaller walls, a bit everywhere. But for those who at this point are bored of seeing very easy to explain geological formation magically created by the Ice Age, I have an interesting question. Does the Ice Age build this kind of structures? And what about this one, found in a very mysterious place in Karelia? I can't wait to get to it. But ice, as we know, have really good skills. This pyramidal structure is found in the Kola Peninsula, definitely created by the famous Egyptian Ice Age. Or this other one, also found in the same area. If somebody can explain me how ice builds a pyramidal structure, I will dedicate an entire documentary on this topic. But the mysterious-looking pyramid structure in the Kola Peninsula are not over. These two innocent-looking hills have some sort of rooms or cavity in their interior. And just to stay a bit longer in very well-known areas that has been affected by this convenient old theory called Ice Age, this Black Pyramid has been discovered in the Urals mountain area, by the way many kilometers away from any road or human activity present on the territory in our days. Obviously, the entrance that has been discovered under it at least raises many questions about the natural origins of the structure. By the way, in those regions, no known civilization has ever been recorded in history. In the same zone, plenty of stones with clear machine tool marks are found. And what about these gigantic walls crossing enormous distances in those remote Russian forests? Just look at them. No comment are needed. But let me give you more evidence of the talent of the Egyptian Ice Age. These two pyramidal-looking structures are found in Iceland. By the way, I was personally standing in front of them, accompanied by countless ancient, I suppose, fields appearing from under the melting glacier. But what about Finland? Let me proudly present you one of my favorite places. We call it Kukkula. I've been studying it dozens of times. I've taken measurement and oops, I can't say what else because it is surprise property of the church, or at least the church is responsible for it. So nobody can dig or do any research without their permission. This one in particular is, again, located in the town of Askola. As we can observe, it is clearly man-made. The stones are creating circles on top of circles, and they continue being of intelligent design under the first few layers of the stone. How do I know that? I can tell you, because it's property of the church. It reminds me a bit of the situation of the Chinese pyramids, that, by the way, are counted in dozens. They are labeled as mausoleum, government property. Plenty of trees has been planted on them, and nobody can research them. But the Askolan Kukkula is not the only one. This is few kilometers south along the same river. There is absolutely nothing around. It's a totally flat river valley, and there it is. I'm not saying that those are pyramids, but certainly are not created by any magical ice age. Very big expert historians of the Askolan area was having a coffee with me not long time ago. By the way, a very nice person and a brilliant mind. And he told me that, of course, he thinks the Ice Age made them, but what is very interesting is that the seashore was not long time ago in Ascola. So this particular cucula was most probably entirely underwater. So let's make some logical conclusions. Ice, instead of scattered stone around in a flat valley, was accumulating them and piling them all in the same place, which I don't believe. Then the sea was covering it, and magically the stones are still perfectly in the same place. The sea didn't move them at all. Having proof of some civilization using that particular river to sail inland into the Finnish landscape, the proofs are plenty of ceramics and artifacts found along the river. Everybody knows that. Isn't it more logical to think that somebody built those piles of stone? So the answer of the historian was, good point. You should find a way to scan them and see if there's something beneath the stones. By the way, I found this map of Lapland. It belonged to the beginning of 1700, and as you can see, there is a place called Kukkula in it, which happened to be on the same side of the river of our Kukkula. It doesn't mean anything, but I take the occasion to make a question to the viewer. Can somebody help me understand what are representing those lines? Talking about lines, I would like to bring back another Ice Age theoretical artwork found literally all over the world. These, in particular, are located in Lapland around Unari Lake, near the city of Rovaniemi, and this other one in the northern province of Canada. 2 years ago, when I was living in the spectacular Montreal, with my super brothers JDG and Chippo, we were investigating and asking ourselves, what are they? Who made them? Are they even real? So the first episode of Suomelle was created, titled Thinking Linear. 2 years later, I still don't know what they are, but certainly I know what they aren't. I've received few comments and email proposing the idea that ice made them, of course during the end of our Ice Age. Well, even if to me it sounds totally absurd, let's investigate this theory that would give credit to the convenient Ice Age idea. As we can read on the screen, they call them iceberg plot marks. The idea is that when the glaciers were melting after this theoretical Ice Age, the icebergs were scratching the ground, forming those giant lines. I don't think that is needed for me to continue. So what the Ice Age enthusiasts are trying to say is that those lines, the ones on the screen, are in the middle of nowhere in Siberia, are made by glacier melting and icebergs scratching. So what about this one, also located in remote areas of Siberia? Those lines are gigantic. Icebergs. How does ice do this? No comments. But the lines that I want to talk about are the Finnish one. Some people even speculate that those are potato fields. Really? Well, let's investigate this theory. The images of the Finnish landscape that I will present you are called airborne laser scanning. On the screen you have a small introduction to it. If somebody is interested in this technology, please just put the name in internet and read how it works, because I don't have the time in this video to go into details. And wow, those lines are everywhere. It is much worse than what I thought. They are all over. Just look at the scale of these patterns. No comments. So nope, no icebergs and no potato fields. At this point, I think that I have a few very good points to believe that the Ice Age, as I already said, is just a convenient old theory. I call it convenient because in this way, every weird structure that lies in the forest of the Hyperborea area can be blamed on ice. Oh, don't worry, there's nothing weird with those stones. I smoothed them. By the way, that theory is based on dating stones in millions and millions of years old. But as we can see on the screen, there are plenty of examples of mistakes in dating rocks. The date on this coin is very clear. But I have one question to the viewers. On the screen you can see the first illustration of snow in history. It dates to 1412 and 1416. There's no snow depicted in art prior to that date. Can somebody help me to find the first depiction of snow in Finnish art? Will be very appreciated. By the way, on the screen you can see a book written by an excellent Finnish researcher that got to the same conclusion with me about this surrealistic old 1800 convenient theory called Ice Age. But I will not talk much more about his investigation, nor only related to the Ice Age, in the next part of the video. And I will give you many more proofs that the Ice Age is nothing more than a beautiful cartoon. So let's go back to Monrepos Park. Every time I see this wall, I'm wowing. As we can appreciate on the screen, very strange bunker-looking structures are found around the park, very similar to this one found all over the Urals mountain area, as I already have shown in one of my previous videos. Would be nice to know what is their purpose. Potato sellers in the middle of nowhere, I guess. The walls are continuing in the water, as we can see. Just look at the block size that compose them. And by the way, can you see how they fit together like some Lego toys? Each stone fits perfectly with the other, even having a unique shape. But we will talk about this polygonal masonry later on. Well, I think that I have bored you enough with the Monrepos Park area. And I imagine that the logical question at this point is why this guy is giving so much importance to a gigantic wall in the middle of nowhere. Because I know that it continues in the forests of Finland, but I don't know where. So let's try to find out what lies in the Finnish side of the border. Excuse me, what is this? This stone block is even bigger than the one in Monrepos Park. Yes, I know, the Ice Age erected and cut it. The stones that you are seeing on the screen are located more or less in the area of Lappeenranta, some around the town of Nuijama, and some in nearby forest. If some of the viewers have more information about those spectacular territories, or have any idea where the Monrepos Park megalithic wall can be located in the Finnish side, please can you share that knowledge with all of us? It is very hard to find specific information about it. This, for example, is called Kummakivi. No comment are needed. By the way, the Finnish woods are full of these strange dolmen-looking stones. But we will talk about them in the second part of this video. Now, I imagine that for Finnish people there will be nothing new about the next places that I will present in the next few minutes. But I will make a short overview on megalithic sites scattered a bit everywhere in this mysterious Finnish forest, before coming back to the southeast area and continue our current investigation. Please enjoy. I think that the viewers start to understand why I'm so excited to live here in Finland, at least part of the year. I can compare this land, archaeologically speaking, to any famous ancient inhabited country around the world. Now, I would like to spend a few seconds going back to one particular place that I have just presented you, brighted by that awesome music. By the way, the link is in the description and on the screen at the end of this video. It's called Niemivaara. You can appreciate some images on the screen. Well, to me it is obviously an ancient quarry, and my theory is supported by this 1700 map of the area, clearly showing us that in those times the quarry was very well known to the inhabitants of those lands. Please keep in mind this piece of the puzzle. It will fit with another in a few minutes. So let's go back to the southeast lands. Plenty of caves are found all over the area. Many of them are labeled as war bunkers, or at least are known to have been used during the war for defensive purposes. But as we can appreciate, the interior of them presents an enormous stone cutting work, difficult to attribute to soldier cutting technique, but more of some sort of mining operation. But we will talk about it in the future. By the way, many of them show sign of being closed with stones, purposely. Would be nice to know the reasons. And going back to the Morepos Park, we can see that this Russian journalist is reporting some strange energy inside one of those caves that doesn't allow him to properly report from the interior, feeling very ill and like if a hammer is banging in his head. I found it very interesting. The quantity of quarry-looking sign in the middle of nowhere in the forest is endless in Finland, with hundreds, if not thousands, of stone blocks scattered basically everywhere. Their number is so huge that people are not even reusing them for daily construction purposes, and they lie in areas where no road would even allow them to transport such blocks to the nearby towns. On these particular stones, we can even see some sort of decoration technique. But I know many people would say, those are not quarries. Ice Age separated those blocks from the hills, right? Wrong. The images on the screen are showing a very well-known, supposedly 1800, stone quarry, located in the area of Virolahti, very close to the Russian border. But this is not a simple quarry for cowhouse buildings. From this quarry, the largest monolithic column in the world has been removed, along with hundreds of very baffling megalithic columns that in our days are allegedly part of one of the most beautiful cities in the world, St. Petersburg. Before starting to investigate what I personally believe is one of the biggest jokes taught in university and school in Finland, let's read an article that appeared very recently on an important Finnish newspaper. The title is "The Big City Was Built from Finland's Granite." But listen to the second part of the title. It felt like we were getting closer to the entrance of hell. I wonder how the entrance of hell looked like, but I imagine that it refers to the hard work that has been needed to complete the job. So let's go read the article. The columns of the St. Isaac Cathedral were quarried from the bedrock of Virolahti. Also, thousands of palaces of St. Petersburg are standing on Finnish stone bases. Thousands of palaces, wow! But let's continue. The men were dragging the granite building stones to their places on wood roller. They have built a huge wooden grid and ramps to drag up the granite to the roof. Big part of the granite was quarried on the shore of the Gulf of Finland in Puterlahti, in Virolahti. So they are pointing the origin of the blocks exactly to that quarry. Let's continue. They have quarried 112 monoliths, which mean made of one single stone, for the St. Isaac Cathedral. The 48 lower columns are granite from Puterlahti. In the dome, 24 columns, and in the bell tower, 32 smaller columns. And on the side of the windows, they install 8 small pillars. As tool, there was gunpowder, drills, wedges, sledgehammers, and tumblers. But this part is extremely important. Roughly cut column was rolled to the shore to be put on a boat. Wow! Thank you for the inspiring and very educative article. What heroes those people. We can also see what the Museum of Virolahti tells us. Close to the museum lies the quarry of Puterlahti, from which they took off the monolith of Alexander I. In 1830, they started to quarry the 25-meter tall monolith known as the biggest stone column in the world, made the village of Virolahti known to the world. Wow! Okay, now is my turn to tell the story of both the St. Isaac Cathedral and the Alexander Column, and we'll see if the two stories fit together. I will use the information contained in the St. Petersburg website for foreigner students that want to go learn and be educated in the University of St. Petersburg. Alexander I ordered to reconstruct the cathedral in 1812 and all of a sudden approved a project of a young French architect, Auguste de Montferrand. Okay, let's check his curriculum before this ambitious project. His first major project, the Odessa Lyceum, did not materialize due to financing problems. Interesting. Second one, his design for the Moscow Manege, 1825, and Moscow Fountains, 1823, were also abandoned. This project were completed by Joseph Beauvais and Ivan Vitali. Wow, what an impressive background. Let's continue with the Alexander Column. The construction took 40 years, 1818 till 1858, with about 500,000 people involved in it. The basement only took 5 years of hard work. Maybe it took so long because there was much more to hide under the cathedral than what they thought, as they cover up all of the remains of the previous civilization throughout the entire city, as we can see on the screen. Let's continue. Building the cathedral, the engineers used the latest technologies, with some of those used for the first time. A new method of cutting was used to make a 45 meters column of solid granite. A barge was built to deliver them from Finland. Okay, let's investigate how they cut them and deliver them from Virolahti to the seashore of St. Petersburg. By the way, only 190 kilometers away. I will start showing you on the screen of what we are talking about. Look at the dimension of those monstrous columns. No comments are needed. Just look at the scale of the Alexander Column. The illustrations that I will present you are coming straight from the book created by Montferrand in person. They show clearly what was going on. The map on the screen is showing you the distance that has to be covered from the quarry to the actual seashore. And fantastic! This is how they were magically moving them. As you can see on this other illustration from Montferrand, the road was perfectly smoothed for facilitate the turning, rolling and pulling of those between 64 and 114 tons columns. Wow, what a joke is this one. But look at the next one. Magically, all of the columns were in lines waiting for their turn to get to the port. By the way, nobody is working, pulling, dragging, rolling, turning, anything. Even those two guys on the left side, they are there chilling and enjoying some fresh air. Ah, but of course, it was Sunday that day. What a circus is this one. And those are the smaller one. What about the Alexander column? 700 tons when finished and polished. So at the moment of separating it from the quarry, they estimate that it weighed some 1,400 tons. But for the Montferrand team, that was a simple routinary work. Here we can see how they were cutting it from the solid bedrock. And these are the latest in technology tools that they were using. What a nonsense. Should I continue? Yes, of course, because the circus didn't end yet. This is how they brought it to the seashore. The entire situation is so dementia. Look at the ropes that they were using. And by the way, why they didn't use animal to pull it? Buffaloes, for example. Probably because the Montferrand team was stronger than any cows or buffalo. In fact, the people on the right side of the illustration, they really look like giants. But talking about these powerful weapons, latest in technology tools, I found out something very interesting. These are 1909 images of Putterlachty Quarry, shot by the geologist and movie director Benjamin Frosterus. In this staged 1900 Hollywood images, it is very obvious that nobody is really working, they are posing for the camera. We can see the same stick tool painted in the Montferrand illustration. And the actor is showing us how 7 decades earlier they were inserting it in the granite bar bedrock. What a joke. And in all of these other images from the same period, we can observe that Sir Frosterus was hanging in the various quarries, always on Sunday. It is very evident that nobody is working. But now comes the best part. Magically, from a megalithic block, it became a perfectly polished column, which was easily, with its 700 tons, rolled to the boat. But oh no, something went wrong and the boat broke down. I wonder why. And the official story goes like this. The column fell into the sea, and soldiers from St. Petersburg, numbering thousands, came to Virolahti to rescue it. How can you lift a 700 tons column from the bottom of a sea bay? I don't have any idea, but Montferrand, with all of his previous working experience, of course knew what to do. And in this other illustration, we can appreciate the column finally getting to the seashore, close to St. Petersburg. Of course, after 190 kilometers in the sea. Oof, what a relief. I was thinking that this time they couldn't do it. So, we are finally on the coast of St. Petersburg. Look at the illustration. 700 tons column is easily transported on a boat. But on this picture, obviously much more recent than the Montferrand illustration, we can appreciate the modification on the boat to transport a real Egyptian obelisk that weighed only 240 tons. Just compare the two images and make your own conclusion. Let me explain you what the 700 tons mean. I proudly present you Paolo. Even being a supercar, Paolo weighed less than 1,000 kilo. So the mathematics is simple. You need 700 Paolo squished together to reach the weight of the Alexander column. How did they transport it? But let me give you more proof of the monolithic lies that are presented to us by historians. In 2012, in California, they decided to bring to the exterior of a museum of art a massive boulder whose weight, as we can read on the screen, is 340 tons. Just look at the technology that has been used to transport it from the quarry to the museum. And this is how in the first half of 1800 they transported the 700 tons monolithic Alexander column. What an absolute hoax! On the screen we can observe some 1909 pictures of the Birolati Arbor, revealing the real technique used to move some 2 or 3 tons blocks. But in the illustration of the construction of the St. Isaac Cathedral of St. Petersburg, we can see this scenario. Do you remember the article that I have read you earlier, published just a few days ago in a newspaper in Finland? It was written that the men were dragging the granite building stones to their places on wood roller, clearly referring to these images contained in the Montferrand book. But who is going to believe it? In this picture from Italy, you can see a real scenario of the transportation of a some 3 tons block. Just compare the two images. The circus is getting wilder and wilder. By the way, this is how they were passing the construction material to each other. I can't continue. The situation is becoming way too pathetic. The dome is already built before the base of the building. Plus, I would like to know how did they put those baby columns, just around 60 tons, around the dome? With ropes? By hand? This is how they erect the largest freestanding monolithic column in the world. Just look at the size of the wooden structure, or the ropes. By the way, it took 2 hours to lift it up, and an entire winter to uninstall the wood armature. And what is also very strange is that in this older illustration, with clear date 1810, many decades before those circus images, the St. Petersburg buildings are already totally finished. But in Montferrand magically fairy tale world, in 1838 and 1840, they are still under construction. What I personally think is that those columns are not quarried at all, but manufactured with some sort of concrete or geopolymer material. But it's a long story that I will cover in the future. But I have a last question. Do you see any difference between those two columns? Same style, same decoration, same polishing result. But this one are located in Montreal, Canada. But I think at this point that I know where they are coming from and how they transported to Canada. Now, really, I'm done. I personally think that the Virolati area should be known to the entire world for its spectacular landscape and nature, instead of these fictionary fairy tales. Right after uploading this video, I will publish a magnificent documentary from the New Earth channel. Please go watch it. It covers with many more details this horrendous falsification of history. Thanks for watching and listening. I hope that life will forever help and protect you and your loved ones. Love and respect to all of you.